Now, I bring you guys this video today about Ernie Hudson. Now, it's not what you guys think it is. Like, I'm not going to get on here and start bashing Ernie Hudson. I'm not going to say that, oh, he's victim, he's crying victim and all this other stuff, because he's not. But at the same time, you do have to look at this as, all right, fam, this is over 30 years later, and you're talking about your displeasure about one of the biggest movies, if not the biggest movie you ever done. Anyways, we're going to get into this. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe, obviously, first of all. And if you're on Rumble, hit that follow. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into this video.
Does Ghostbusters mean to you what we think it means to you?
Well, I don't know what you think it means, but...
like the biggest role of your life, No,
none of that. They were doing Ghostbusters, and the movie was being made by a lot of people who were really successful. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis. They had already made a number of movies. And I was the guy who was brought in. And so finding my place in the middle of that, and they were all welcoming, and inclusive. The studio wasn't. And the studio continued not to be. So it made it very, very difficult because I was a part of, but then very selectively, I was sort of pushed aside. When the posters came out, I'm not on the poster. It took a long time. I went to the 30th anniversary release of the movie, and I was invited to a theater in Chicago to introduce the movie, and I get there, and all the posters are three guys. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, Now, I know the fans see it differently.
I want to let you guys know that's the most important part, is that the fans do see it differently. Now, I can't speak for the whole Ghostbusters thing, and they're going to get into the whole thing of, because I know you guys are thinking maybe this could be racism, possibly. Look, they're going to get into that here in a second, but I do want to preface this, okay, before we get more into this video, is that Ernie Hudson, he's a great actor. I respect him as an actor, obviously, and as a person. But I do have to reiterate, this is, again, 30 plus years later, fam. Like, why are we sitting here having this discussion about how you felt slighted from the studios? Now, I get you're on a talk show, or you're on a podcast, Howard Stern, radio. I get it, but at the same time, man, it's not needed, man. We didn't need to know all this.
And I'm so thankful for the fans, because the fans have basically identified with Winston, especially young, I don't say minority kids, but a lot of kids,
that's
whatever,
real.
So It took a long time for the studio, and even now, we're negotiating a new movie that's gearing up to start shooting in March, and I'm like, guys, there's a place that I'm not an add-on, and so if I'm going to do it, it has to make sense,
Yeah.
When you start out in the business, I was always told it's almost impossible to succeed. But if you get in a major movie from a major studio and it comes out and it opens number one, it'll change your career. Well, Ghostbusters didn't do any of that for me. I was working pretty nonstop. I did Ghostbusters, and it was 2.5 years before I got another movie. So, but.
However, you do have to credit Ghostbusters for launching, at least continuing to further your career. Even if it is 2 years later, you didn't get another acting job for another 2 years. That could be for whatever fucking reason. I'm sure there's, more to that story in that 2-year gap. But I do want to say, Ernie Hudson, this is their biggest movie you've ever done, fam.
It was
and your biggest role. Obviously.
Important movie, a big movie, and I'm so thankful to be a part of the franchise, but it wasn't an easy road. In fact, Ghostbusters, I would say it was probably the most difficult movie I ever did, just from the psychological perspective.
Yeah. Everything you were dealing with.
The original script, Winston was in the very beginning of the movie.
Speaking of the original script, Eddie Murphy turned down the role of Winston. That is a huge part of this. That's a huge part of the reason why I don't think this is a huge race issue or anything like that. Is because, and you'll hear Ernie Hudson mention, he's about to mention the whole race thing here in a second, and you'll be surprised at what he says. That's why I said, hey, I ain't coming on here to bash Ernie Hudson or anything like that, but this is still an awareness type of situation of, fam, little too late to be sitting up here on a podcast talking about this 30 plus years later. But, again, that's probably just me overreacting.
By the time we got ready to shoot the movie, Winston came in halfway through the movie. So it was like all those things.
It felt deliberate, right?
It definitely felt deliberate. And I'm still not trying to take it personal because, I'm sure anything bad, if you're African American in this country, anything bad.
Well, if you're African American, this would be the only country that you would be African American.
Happens to you, you can always blame it on because I'm black, that
100%.
happens. You cut in front of me because so you don't want to go there. That's the last thing you want to.
But sometimes you just know.
Sometimes
you can't explain it. I tell people all the time. I'm like, even if I can't explain it to you, I just know it's because I'm black.
Yeah,
I just know.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait, and when it shows up,
I don't know about that. I mean, it would depend on. Again, every situation is different. Details would actually matter in those type of situations, but I'm just not going to be like, somebody, just like what he said, like somebody cut in front of me, it must be racist, or maybe they're just an asshole. Maybe it's just that, So his answer, his philosophy on that is correct. Like, the last thing I'm going to do is blame racism.
Wait a minute, I'm getting this and
Yes.
they're getting that, and it's not because, come on.
Yeah.
So I got nothing bad to say about anybody, but it was hard, and it was hard for a long time. It took me probably 10 years anyway, to finally get sort of past that and just embrace the movie and enjoy the movie. It was very hard. Ghostbusters was really hard to make peace with.
So Winston in Ghostbusters. He was one of the four, actually probably I would say 5 pivotal characters of the story of Ghostbusters. And yet now you have Ernie Hudson talking about how Winston was, basically not just the character of Winston was, kind of written out, but he was pushed aside as an actor a lot of the times while filming Ghostbusters. Now I can't speak to that. There's no detail that he even went in about that. Maybe he will later. Who knows? But, I mean, what he's saying is he's just talking about his experience. He's just talking about his experience. He's not necessarily saying, they did this because of this or that. He's saying he doesn't even know why they did it. He kind of got a feeling, but he ain't even going to say that. So, again, this isn't me trying to bash Ernie Hudson or anything like that, but, man, coming out, 30-plus years later, and in a day and age where he could probably get another role in the Ghostbusters franchise because we're in the day and age of spin-offs and reboots and all this other stuff. So, yeah. Anyways, make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe. Let me know in the comments, am I overreacting? This one, I probably am overreacting just a little bit, making a video, but, hey, it is what it is. It's your boy, Corn. It's Half-Ass Pod, and I am OUT.